Welcome to The Explainer. You ever get that feeling that there's some kind of hidden connection between the sheer vastness of space and, well, what's going on inside your own head? Today, we're diving into a pretty wild theory that says, yeah, there is a hidden blueprint that ties everything together.
Okay, so let's start with a little puzzle. Look around you. All the incredible patterns we see in nature, are they just a coincidence? Just random chance? Or are they clues pointing to something way, way deeper?
All right, check this out. On one side, you've got this huge electrical explosion happening way up in our atmosphere. And on the other, a single brain cell. I mean, the resemblance is just uncanny, right? But believe me, this is just the very beginning of the rabbit hole. So, according to this new framework, this exact same branching pattern, it's called a Lichtenberg figure, basically the shape electricity makes when it zaps through something. It shows up everywhere. And I mean everywhere, at every single scale you can imagine. Let's dig in and see just how deep this thing goes. Okay, let's start as big as we can possibly go. The cosmic web. This thing, it's not just a random mess of galaxies floating around. Nope. They're all connected in this gigantic branching network. It literally forms the skeleton of our entire universe. All right, now let's zoom way in, back to our home planet. Look high above a thunderstorm. You see that same pattern again in these wild electrical bursts they call sprates. It's like nature's putting on its own private light show, and it's using the same design. And we can go even smaller, down to the biological level. Get this, the very cells in our brain that help us think, astrocytes, they have that same fundamental branching shape. So think about it, from the entire cosmos to our skies, right down into our own heads.
But okay, here's where things get absolutely mind-bending. If we could somehow zoom all the way down to the tiniest, most fundamental level of reality, we're talking the Planck scale, simulations are telling us that space-time itself, the actual fabric of reality, is built on this exact same branching structure. It's the pattern of everything.
So just let that sink in for a second. We're seeing the same pattern across more than 40 orders of magnitude. That's one with 40 zeros after it. A scale so ridiculously vast, our brains can't even really picture it. For that to be a coincidence, the odds are basically zero. This isn't random. It's got to be the signature of some fundamental law.
So, what is this law? Well, the theory gives it a name. It calls the engine driving this whole thing the Yo paradigm, and it's proposed as the fundamental process that literally creates, well, everything.
It's actually a really simple idea at its core. It's a two-part system. You have Y, which stands for infinite branching potential, kind of like a lightning bolt exploring every single possible path it could take. And then you have O, which is the collapse into just one single reality, the one path the lightning actually ends up taking.
So, yeah, to boil it right down, Y is all the things that could happen, O is the one thing that does happen.
But this leads to a massive question, right? If Y is all the potential and O is the actual outcome, then what's doing the choosing? What collapses all those possibilities into one single reality? And this is where the framework makes a bold and honestly pretty radical claim. It's consciousness. Okay, so if consciousness is really the thing that's selecting reality, the implications are huge. This paradigm isn't just about a cool pattern anymore. It completely rewrites our understanding of the most basic building blocks of the universe: space, time, even gravity. So in this model, space isn't just this empty void, a big box that stuff sits in. No, think of it more like a dynamic fabric woven from these countless little cosmic knots. And the key thing is, these knots aren't in space-time, they are space-time. They're the fundamental pixels of reality. And this completely changes how we think about matter, too. Matter isn't some separate thing floating around in space. It's just what happens when you get a little depression, like a divot, in that quantum foam. It's literally just a wrinkle in the fabric of reality. And this idea extends to gravity and time. They aren't fundamental forces like we've always been taught. They're what we call emergent properties, meaning they arise from something deeper. So gravity, that's just the tension you feel in the fabric between all these knots. And time, it's not some universal clock ticking the same for everyone. It's more like a local rhythm, a unique pulse coming from each individual knot.
Okay, and here's where the theory takes its most profound, and probably its most controversial leap. It connects the structure of the entire universe directly to us, to the structure of the observer.
I mean, just look at this. On one side, you've got the Helix Nebula. People call it the Eye of God. On the other, a diagram of a human eye. The theory says this isn't a coincidence. It's not just a cute similarity. It's the universe literally looking back at itself. What's fascinating is that the framework points out that this idea, this deep connection between the observer and the observed, it's not new at all. In fact, it lines up almost perfectly with concepts from ancient Vedic cosmology. It suggests we've been grappling with this very idea for thousands of years.
But look, even if consciousness is fundamental, it still needs a physical place to, well, happen. And the theory argues that our ability to be conscious is incredibly dependent on a very fragile balance right here on Earth. And this leads to a pretty startling conclusion. Get this, just a tiny 2% shift in our planet's stability, its temperature, its magnetic field, could be enough to disrupt the physical foundation of consciousness itself. That gives us a pretty powerful, almost cosmic reason to protect our planet.
So, okay, this is all a really fascinating, mind-bending idea. But so what? Why does it matter in the real world? Well, if any of this is true, it wouldn't just be a change in our philosophy books. It would trigger an absolute technological revolution.
And the people behind this theory aren't just hand-waving. They lay out a clear, pretty ambitious 4-step plan to actually explore all this. It starts with trying to prove it in the lab, moves on to developing new tech from it, and goes all the way to creating a new global ethical system based on our role as cosmic observers. When you step back, what this framework is really offering is a completely different vision of reality. The universe isn't some cold, dead machine just ticking away. It's more like a living, evolving system. And we're not just passengers along for the ride. We are an essential part of its journey, a journey to becoming aware of itself.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty provocative thought. If our consciousness really helps shape reality, then what kind of reality are we going to choose to create? What if the future of the universe isn't just something we watch unfold, but something we're actually responsible for building?